So I figured that we would just do some extra problems together that would help prepare you guys for your quiz today. So this is for quiz number, what is it, 23 we're taking today? Yes. So extra practice for quiz number 23. And then just like always, your quiz is going to be open notes, so you can use your packet, and then obviously you can use this on it as well. So, what are the steps to solving radical equations? Number 2, what's our steps? We wrote them in our notes.
Isolate the radical on one side.
Okay, so we're going to isolate the radical. So get the radical alone. That's step 1. Number 3, what's step 2 going to be?
Raise each side to power equal to the index.
Yes, we raise each side to a power equal to the index, or the reciprocal of the original exponent. Because if your radical is written as an exponent, then we're just going to use the reciprocal of the exponent. Okay? Just depends on if you originally have a radical or if it's originally written as an exponent. Okay. Step 3. How about number 8? Solve the polynomial. So the equation that's left, you're going to solve it. And number 16, how about number 4? Okay, so there's our 4 steps. If you can follow these 4 steps, you'll get there every time. Okay. Number 6, what's my very first step I'm going to do on number 1 here?
You're going to isolate it.
Okay, so I isolate it. Cool. What do I do to get there?
Multiply by 3 over the reciprocal, so 3 over 1 both sides.
How about it's already isolated?
Oh.
Right? That part's done?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I need to raise each side to a power equal to the index, or the reciprocal of the exponent. So, what do I do to do that?
In parentheses, and then around it, put 3.
So we raise it to an exponent of 3. All right, what are you left with on the left side now?
X minus 5.
X minus 5. And on the right side, if we take negative 4 to the 3rd power, what do we get?
64.
Try it again. It's not 64. It's negative 64. Because negative times a negative times a negative is going to still be a negative when you do it to a odd number. Okay, so we're good there. How about number 5? What do I do now?
Now you need to take 5 and add it to negative 64.
How about we add it to both sides? Okay. It goes away, yes, on the left, but we still had to add it to make that go away. So we end up with x equals negative 59. Okay, so far so good. Then what?
Then you have to plug in negative 59 back into the polynomial.
Yes, to the radical. We have to plug in x equals negative 59 to the original equation. So we have the cubic root of negative 59 minus 5 equals negative 4. I'm going to cover up the right side. I'm going to use PEMDAS to simplify the left side and figure out what it is. So I'm taking the cubic root of negative 59 minus 5 is negative 64. The cubic root of negative 64, can you do that in your calculator? Yes. What is the answer it gives you? Negative 4. Does negative 4 equal, on the right side, we already have negative 4. Does negative 4 equal negative 4? Yes. So where do I write my answer then? Under the solution, because it worked. And then extraneous, I'll write an A. Do we have questions on that first one? Give me a 1 through 5. I can handle that on my own. Okay. All right. Number 14, what's the first thing I'm going to do?
Isolate it.
Isolate the radical, yep. And here, even though it doesn't look, you can't see a radical symbol, the exponent says this is a radical because that exponent is a fraction, right? So how are we going to get that radical alone then? Subtract the 10 from both sides. That's a minus 10. And what do you get once you subtract 10?
9. So 3x
To the power of?
to the power of 2/3
Yep.
equals 9.
Perfect. Okay, 3x to the power of 2/3 is equal to 9. Make sure you keep those parentheses there. Okay, it's a whole different problem if the parentheses were not there. Very good. Number 12, what comes next? Raise each side to the reciprocal power. So what would the reciprocal power be? 3/2. So we're raising both sides to the power of 3/2. That means that my exponents then go away, because when I take powers to powers, I multiply them. And when I multiply 2/3 by 3/2, I get to the power of 1. So what am I left with then? On the left side, you have what? 3x equals... Okay, what is the 9 to the power of 3/2? 27. Very good. All right, now that we've gotten that far, number 20, what do I do? Divide both sides. And what do you get? 9. Good. Okay. And number 21, what do you do now? You plug the x of 9 into the original. So we're going to write it like this. 3 times 9 raised to the 2/3 power plus 10 equals 19. Cover up the right side. We're going to use PEMDAS to simplify the left side. Number 3, what's the first thing I do here? PEMDAS.
I times 3 times 9.
Okay, what is 3 times 9?
27.
So how do I write it?
27 plus 10 equals 29. Or 19.
I'm not writing anything on the right side yet. Like this? This is what I write?
Well, you gotta add the fraction.
Oh yeah, I have to write to the power of 2/3 here.
Yep.
Okay, so I have to write all that down.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Number 7, what comes next?
Then you do 27 to the power of 2.
And what is 27 to the power of 2/3?
9.
9. So we have 9 plus 10 now. And number 16, what comes next?
You add 9 plus 10 to get 19.
And the left side is 19. Then we look, and the right side was already simplified, so the right side was 19. Is 19 equal to 19?
Yes.
Yes. So where do I put my answer? Solution or extraneous? Solution. So I'm going to write x equals 9 under a solution and write not available under extraneous. Remember, you go back to what x was for your solution. Some people in the past have tried to write 19 equals 19 on their solution line. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm looking for what is x. All right. All right. Do we already have time to try number 3 too? Ready to go over number 3? Okay, so we'll go over number 3, and then I'll give you some time for the back side. 17, what do I do first?
You multiply, or you get the 2x minus 10 alone.
Okay, so we have to get the 2x minus 10 alone. And right now it's under the radical, or do you mean get the radical alone?
Yeah, you multiply by, or you square root it by 6.
It's being square rooted by 6.
Or you,
It's being taken to the 6th root is how we would say that.
Yeah, you
So the radical's alone, that's step 1, right? Isolate the radical. What's step 2 then?
you get the 2x minus 10 alone and have to multiply by 6.
You're not going to multiply by 6.
Or
How do we instead say that? You have to get rid of the radical. So how do you get rid of a radical?
I don't know what's called, but it's like the exponent.
Okay, we have to take it to an exponent, yes. So we have to raise it to a power. What power are we going to raise it to? The 6th power. So when we raise it to the 6th power, a 6th root and a 6th power undo each other. Okay? So the left side then is what?
2x.
What's the right side going to be? What is 2 to the 6th power?
64.
64. Thank you. Okay. Number 22, what comes next? Add 10 to both sides. What do you get when you add 10 to both sides? Good. And number 12, what comes next? Divide both sides by 2, and we get x equals what? 37. Fine. Number 5, what comes next? Yes, we're going to take that original. We're going to write it all out. And instead of writing the x, we're going to plug in the x that we found. So there's the whole original, and in x, we're going to plug in 37. Go ahead, do PEMDAS for me. So cover up the right side. What's the first thing we're going to do on that left side? And 2 times 37 is? So we have the 6th root of 74 minus 10. Okay, what comes next? The 74 minus 10, which is 64. Okay, and then? Alright, how about the 6th root of 64? There we go. So we take 64 to the 6th root. So do that on your calculator. And what do you get? 2. And we look in the right side was supposed to be 2. Does 2 equal 2? So where do I put my answer? On solution or extraneous solution? A solution. And what was my solution here? The x equals 37. I was looking for my solution. Goes on the solution sign. Solution line. So extraneous, not available. Alright. Let's flip it over. Go ahead, take some time. Try those 3 problems. Alright, so number 4. These ones had quite a few more steps to them. Let's go with number 9. What's the first thing I'm going to do on this one? You get the radical here alone. Now remember, this radical is this one here because it has that fractional exponent. So what's my first step in order to get that radical alone? Subtract 2 from both sides. What do you get when you subtract 2 from both sides? And you have that radical. And then what? Equals 27. Good. Number 14, what comes next?
I divide it by the -3 on both sides.
Good. We have to divide both sides by -3. The -3's go away on that side. What are we left with? Oh, -9 over here.
Yeah.
And then this side is good. Okay. And number 16, what comes next?
You take the radical to the power of 2.
We're going to take this side to the power of 2. What about this side?
And take that.
And this side to the power of 2. We picked 2. Why?
There's like there's a little like 1/2 in the thing already.
Yeah, we have
The 1/2 we just pick the opposite.
the 1/2. You flip it, right, to get 2 over 1.
Yeah.
So reciprocal. Okay. And what do we get when we did that?
2x minus 10 equals 81.
Equals what?
81.
81. Good. All right, number 22, what comes next? Add 10 to both sides. And I get?
2x equals 9.
On number 13, what comes next?
Divide each side by 2.
And I get?
9
Yes, leave x equals 91 over 2. Don't go to your calculator because it's going to tell you a decimal, and we know we don't deal with decimals in this class. Okay, dope. Once I have what x is, what do I do from there, number 12? Plug it into the original equation. So we have negative 3 times 2x was supposed to be 91 over 2, so that's what we're checking. Minus the 10 raised to the 1/2 power plus 2 is supposed to equal 29. Okay, that was plugged into my original. I'm going to pretend that my original doesn't have a right side. And number 2, what do I do first?
You multiply the 2 and 91 over 2.
Yep, 2 times 91 over 2, and what do we get there? What is 2 times 91 divided by 2? What is anything if you multiply by 2 and divide it by 2? If I double something, then cut it in half, what do I get? If I take 10 and I double it, what do I get? Cut it in half. What number did I start with? It's going to be 91. Because if I double something and then I cut it in half, you're just undoing it, right? You multiply by 2, divide by 2, those two undo each other. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So really you're just multiplying by 1 here. So we have 91 right there. Okay, number 3, what comes next?
91 minus 10.
Okay, which is?
81.
Okay, so I'm going to write out the whole thing. Negative 3. In the parentheses, I now have 81. That's raised to the 1/2 power plus 2. Keep going. What comes next?
Negative 3 times 81 to the 1/2 power.
Just pick one thing to do. PEMDAS. We're doing it in our head. Which one are you going to do? Negative 3 times 81? Are you going to do 81 to the 1/2? Are you going to add 2? What do you do first?
I just times the whole thing together.
Okay. No. What do we do first? PEMDAS tells us parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, adding, subtracting. What comes first?
Wait, so can't you get rid of the parentheses though?
Well, 81 is in the parentheses right now. So, what do you do first? Parentheses are on...
Parentheses first, right?
Yeah, but there's nothing to simplify on the in there side, so that's done. So we move on to the next letter.
So, exponent.
Exponent, okay. Can you take 81 to the 1/2 power?
Yeah,
Put it in your calculator, if you don't know it in your head.
I'll try. 9.
Okay, so that turns this into a 9. Then what?
And then you times those together.
Okay, now we can multiply, right? Multiplication has to come before the adding and subtracting. So what's negative 3 times 9?
Negative 27.
Okay, and what's negative 27 plus 2?
Negative 25.
What's the right side supposed to be?
29.
Did that work?
Yeah.
That works? Negative 25 is the same as 29? If you're in debt $25, it means you have $29? Those are not the same number. So what does that tell us? That solution is extraneous. What was the solution? X equals 91 over 2 is an extraneous solution. Oops. So what do I write on the solution line? Nothing, or no solution, or not available, or something like that. Okay? No solution. All right, number 5. Number 16, what do we do first?
I plus 12 plus 6.
Add 12 to both sides. And you get?
1/2, and then in parentheses 3x minus 7 to the 3/4 power
Yep.
equals 3.
Perfect. And number 9, what do I do now? Oh, I don't want to divide by a fraction. That sounds terrible. Technically, you could do that, but that sounds awful. What is multiplying by 1/2? What are you doing? You're multiplying by 1 and dividing by 2, right? So how do you undo divided by 2? Multiply both sides by 2. Multiplying by 2 is dividing by 1/2, because if you divide by a fraction, it's the change flip, the multiplying by the reciprocal. So multiplying by 2 just makes more sense. What's 2 times 1/2? What is something if we multiply by 2 and divide by 2? You're back at 1. So now we have 1 times, which we don't have to write 1 times because it would just be itself, equals 32 times 2 is 64. If you divide it by 1/2, you will get the exact same thing, but a lot of people struggle with how to divide by 1/2 in their calculator and what to do it in their head to do that. So multiplying by 2 is just easier. Okay. Now that we have it here, number 5, what comes next?
We have 3x minus 7 to the 3/4 power equals 64.
Yeah.
And you take the reciprocal of 3/4, so you multiply
So you look at 3/4, you find the reciprocal, which would be 4/3, and what do we do with that 4/3?
multiply both sides by
I don't want to multiply both sides by it.
the power of
I'm taking it to the power of. Take it to the power of 4/3. Take it to the power of 4/3. Okay, your 3/4 and your 4/3 over here are going to turn into 1, which taking something to the power of 1 is just itself. So we're going to end up with the 3x minus 7 equals, what is 64 to the power of 4/3? What is it? 256? Cool. And number 7, what comes next? And we add 7 to both sides, and what do we get?
3x equals 260.
And then what?
Divide by
Divide both sides by 3, and what do you get?
263.
X equals what?
263.
Good. Leave it like that, because when you type it in your calculator, it gives you a decimal. We don't deal with decimals, so take it back a step. Leave it the way it was. All right. Now what do I do now that I have that? What are we going to do number 12? Plug it in. 1/2 times 3 times 263 over 3 minus 7 to the 3/4 power minus 12. It's supposed to equal 20. There's my whole original. Number 3, what does PEMDAS tell me to do first?
Parentheses.
Parentheses. So inside my parentheses, what do I do first?
3 times 263 over 3.
Okay, what is 3 times 263 divided by 3?
256.
What do you get when you multiply something by 3 and then divide it by 3?
Oh, 263.
263. So we have a 1/2 out front. This changes to 263 minus 7 to the 3/4 power minus 12. What comes next? We're still inside the parentheses here. Now you subtract them. What's 263 minus 7?
256.
Okay, so we have the 1/2 out front. We have 256 on the inside raised to the 3/4 power minus 12. Now we start back. PEMDAS, parentheses are done because inside the parentheses is a simple number. Exponents come next. So, what do?
You do 256 3/4.
Okay, 256 raised to the power of 3/4 is what?
32.
I don't know. Did you type it in? Is that what it
I
is?
did the whole thing.
Well,
I got once in the calculator.
okay. You have to show these steps.
Right.
That's part of your showing your work.
Right.
So what is 256 raised to the 3/4 power? It's not 32.
I got 64.
It should be 64. Okay, now what comes next?
Then you times 1/2 by 64.
Which is what?
32.
32 minus 12. Then you get 20. And then you look to the right side and you say, okay, what's the right side supposed to be? It was 20. Does 20 equal 20? Yes. So where does our solution go?
In the solution.
Extraneous or solution? It's a solution. What was our solution then? X equals what? 20? No. 263 over 3. And extraneous, not available. I wanted to show you this one because it is okay to get a fraction, and some people, when they saw this one, assumed, oh, if it's a fraction, that means it's extraneous because fractions are bad. That's not true. Okay? Fractions can also be solutions. It is okay. You might also get something like x equals 7, and it might be extraneous. Okay? But just because it's a fraction does not mean it's going to be extraneous. And you need to show your steps in solving every time. And make it neat so I can read it. Okay. Last one. Then we'll go to lunch, and then you'll come back and take the quiz. Number 7, what do I do first?
Add 10 to both sides.
Okay. And what do you get?
Negative 4 x plus 4 equals 10.
Okay. And number 21, what comes next? Divide both sides by negative 4. And what do you get?
Negative 5.
Yes, this simplifies to reduces to negative 5 halves. And over here you have the square root of x plus 4 still. Number 9, what comes next? What's that? We have to get rid of the radical sign. How do we do that? What's the index on that radical? It's invisible. What is it, though? It's a 2. So what do I raise both sides to the power of? 2. My radical goes away on that side, and I'll be left with x plus 4 equals, how do I square a fraction? You multiply by itself, or you do negative 5 squared is 25. 2 squared is 4. I'd be doing negative 5 halves times negative 5 halves. So far, so good. Number 6, what comes next?
Then you subtract 4 on both sides.
Okay, so I'm going to subtract 4 here, but I'm going to write 4 differently here, though. How should I write it?
16 over 4.
16 over 4, so then that way I have a common denominator. Right? 16 fourths is 4. So I subtracted 4 on both sides, the same. I'm going to get 9 fourths. Good. X equals 9 fourths. Cool. All right. Now what? Plug it in. So we're going to have a negative 4 times the square root. The x was supposed to be 9 fourths plus 4 minus 10. We'll see if we get 0. Okay, PEMDAS here. Cover up the right side. Number 16, what comes first?
We do 9 fourths plus 4.
What is 9 fourths plus 4?
25 over 4.
25 over 4. So if you want to show your work here, this is the same thing as 9 fourths plus 16 fourths. 16 fourths is the same as 4. Don't have to write that, I'm sorry. And then, yes, you get, what'd you say?
25 over 4.
25 over 4. Good. Okay. And then what comes next using PEMDAS? The square root will come next. So the square root is just like an exponent, so it goes parentheses, exponents, or radicals, because they're the same thing. Okay, so what's the square root of 25 fourths? 5 over 2. You can square root 25 and you can square root 4. So we get negative 4 times 5 over 2 minus the 10. Okay, what comes next? Number 17.
Oh, you multiply negative 4 by 5/2.
Yeah, so negative 4 times 5 is?
Negative 20.
Negative 20 divided by 2 is?
10. Negative 10.
Negative 10. Negative 10 minus 10. Okay, and then what?
You add those two together.
We add those two numbers together. Negative 10 and negative 10 make?
Negative 20.
Negative 20. And the right side was 0. Does negative 20 equal 0? No. So where does my answer go? Extraneous solutions. What is my answer? X equals 9/4. Solution, we can write not available or no solution. Okey doke. Give me a 1 through 5. How did this go? Cool.